Hi, everyone. As you're getting logged in, you are in listen only mode. So just wanted to let you know that we're going to hold just about one more minute and allow everyone to get logged into their computer. All right, it's about 3 minutes after the hour, and we're going to get started with our webinar. First of all, thank you all who have registered and logged in. Several people are getting logged in as we speak, so we'll leave them a chance to get logged in here in just a few moments. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bobby Harris, and I'm the Membership Engagement Lead for UBBA. If you're not familiar with the organization, the Utility Broadband Alliance, UBBA, is a collaboration really of utilities and our ecosystem partners that are dedicated really to champion and understanding the technology and the drivers, the advancement really, and the development of private broadband networks for critical infrastructure industries. We collaborate through working groups, through webinars, through face-to-face meetings, and mainly it's to share lessons learned. So we're a pretty new organization still, about a year old now, a little over, but some really great conversations going on at the Utility Broadband Alliance. We'll talk more a bit later, but again, thank you all for joining us today. Just a quick word on our antitrust and confidentiality. We put this up before every meeting so that we all understand that we do protect each other's confidentiality, but we also believe in collaboration. So we share what we can share, but we also protect those antitrust laws. So that's a good remembrance. All right, so the point that we're talking about here today, as many of you will know, on May 13th, the FCC approved the use of 900 megahertz spectrum for broadband communications to enable utilities to deploy private LTE systems of course, in support of grid modernization activities. Today, we have 5 utility members who are members of the Utility Broadband Alliance who are going to share their thoughts about this FCC report and order. And as I said, we are dedicated to discussing these kinds of topics. You can look at the FCC report and order. That link that you see on your screen right now is the direct link. I'll leave it there just another minute because I know it's a lot to take down. When you click that link, you'll actually get the PDF on the left, which is really hard to read, but that's actual screen capture of that PDF. So if you're looking for background information, that's the place to go find it. Again, you guys are in listen only mode for all of our attendees. We do want you to use the question tool that's on the right-hand side, I assume, on all of your screens. Type in your questions. We're not going to answer questions live on this because of the nature of the webinar, but we will type them in. We will follow up on every one of them. We are recording today's webinar, and we will make it available to those who registered but couldn't join us. We'll post that, and we'll also get back to you again on answering the questions on that you type in on the tool. You can use the chat button if you have major issues with technical, or if you can't hear me, please wave your hand and let me know. I do have some great colleagues who are also monitoring and will hopefully let me know if we lose any connection, of course. We're not going to use the video portion. Under COVID, a lot of people are doing video chats and meetings, and we felt like another talking head meeting would not be as interesting for all of you. And it also, we want to give our respect to our utility panelists who are going to be sharing their information with you guys. So let's talk about our speakers. We are very fortunate. I'll tell you a little bit about each one of the speakers here today. Alan McIntyre with Southern Link. He is the engineering director there, and he began his career with Southern Company and Southern Link back in 1995. His work there has been varied. He received his Bachelor of Electrical Engineering and his MBA from Auburn University, and he currently serves on the Auburn University Wireless Advisory Board, as well as chairing our working groups, one of our working groups here at UBBA. Next, we have Gary Johnson from Evergy. Gary is a U.S. Army veteran who served 30 years of IT experience. He's the Senior Director of Cybersecurity and IT Infrastructure at Evergy. And prior to that, he spent about 10 years with the Cerner Corporation, helping to build their IT infrastructure. And his history in cybersecurity, enterprise architecture, IT, data centers, all of that he is putting to work at Evergy as we speak. Next up, John Hughes from Ameren. John is the Director of IT Network Engineering and Operations, and he's worked his entire 30 professional career in engineering and information technology. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Missouri, Columbia, and an MBA from Webster University in St. Louis. In addition to his work on the working groups and the governance of UBBA, he currently serves as an advisor to EPRI's PDU Information and Communications Program, and as well as an advisor for AT&T's Energy Council. Next up, we have Alan Thorpe. He is the Senior Manager of Network Strategy at Xcel Energy, and Alan's based in Minneapolis and has over 30 years of experience in utility and telecommunications industries, including work planning, designing technology evaluation and business case development. Alan actually serves as the chair of the UBBA Use Cases Working Group, and he has an electrical engineering degree also from Auburn and an MBA from the University of Indianapolis. Finally, we have Ali Mohammed from NYPA, New York Power Authority. He is the director of the Digital Transformation Office at NYPA, and he's overseeing their implementation of enterprise digital strategy. That's everything an end-to-end digital utility should be, leveraging connectivity, big data, analytics. He oversees their portfolio of projects and is leading a program that will result in the build out of secure and reliable NYPA-owned wireless network. Ali is an alumnus of Manhattan College, earning a master's degree in both electrical engineering and computer engineering. I'm going to take a breath right there. So as you see, we really have some great guys who are willing to be on this presentation with you guys today. I'm going to leave this screen up so that as they're talking, you'll know who they are. Again, do please use the questions tab tool to type in your questions, and we'll follow up with you and with everyone on the questions that we receive after the webinar is finished. We are recording the webinar, and we will make that available to registered and attendees as well. So let's get started by each of our utilities to share their take on the May 13th FCC report and order. what are the new opportunities and implications that this decision will bring to the industry? And I'm going to reverse it a little bit. I want to start with Ollie from NIPA. If you will share your thoughts, Ollie.
Thank you, Bobby. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. First and foremost, before I respond to that to your question, Bobby, I just want to take a minute and acknowledge and appreciate FCC's efforts to make spectrum available, especially to the utility industry to maintain its critical infrastructure. And I want to, since we talk about the utility industry, I want to tie it back to the Presidential Directive 21, which identifies the energy sector as one of the 16 critical infrastructure sectors in America. So, and with this new rule and order coming out, this shows that the FCC does realize the need for utility spectrum. So I do want to thank FCC working tirelessly through this pandemic to make that happen. Now, with respect to your question, Bobby, so 900 megahertz spectrum has been used by current incumbents over time and time, especially with the LMR, the radios, push-to-talk radios. And now with adding this LTE capability to that, I think the utilities will definitely use this opportunity to expedite the deployment of this, especially after COVID-19. This would be one of the high priority use case deployment that we will see in America. And with the NB-IoT as well. But with respect to high bandwidth required technologies and use cases, I think the utilities will still need time to test and validate the use of the spectrum for those use cases. But just to add on to that, with any sub-gig spectrum, just like 900, there is an ideal characteristics, which is propagation, which the farther the range goes, the lower the number of towers. So the capital cost or the investment would definitely be lower with respect to building the network out.
Great, Ollie. Thank you for sharing that. I apologize if I have a little bit of a echo there. Alan Thorpe from Xcel Energy, same question to you. What are you seeing that this new decision may do?
Well, thank you, Bobby. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to just take what Ali said just a little bit further. He's exactly right, and then we'll get into your question about the lower the frequency, and that's what we all want is the fewer sites and the lower capital cost. But not only that, is after we get the networks up, utilities, I mean, we're not, for the most part, we're not going to commercialize this and make a profit off of it. So we don't have the appetite to carry and feed the type of systems commercials carriers provide. So the fewer sites that we can carry and feed from an O&M perspective, once the network's launched, the better it is for us. So that's why this 900 megahertz opportunity is great for us. I think it's a long overdue opportunity for us to actually look at our networks as in a holistic manner, instead of building purpose-built networks and one-off networks to solve a problem. We can now look at it from an enterprise perspective, which we haven't had the opportunity to do before now.
That's really good insight, Alan. Gary Johnson from Evergy, what are your thoughts on this first topic?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. I definitely agree with Ali and Alan Thorpe so far. Getting the O&M off the books, we actually this actually allows us to really consider building our own private LTE network. We probably would have been in the boat of just procuring those services or trying to build some other, purpose-built, microwave network to solve the problem. Like Alan just said, I mean, I really look for the opportunity to simplify the environment, and I think that the ability to build something out in this space may allow us to over time anyway shut down other networks which is nothing but good news for the utilities, but also for our consumers, the ones that are paying the bills. And since this was announced, we're kicking into high gear an RFP to put out to get somebody to help us come in and build a real broadband strategy. So
Excellent,
I'm excited.
Gary. Go ahead.
I'm excited to get that going.
Yeah, that's great news. Absolutely great news. And I think we'll hear some more of those stories as we talk to more and more utilities. And I'm sure those on the call are listening eagerly about that. John Hughes from Ameren, I know you guys are down a path. Talk to us about this first question. Really is what are your thoughts from your utility's perspective? What maybe new opportunities or implications does this decision have for Ameren?
Yeah, thank you, Bobby. Thank you for hosting this. I love the comments I heard so far. I align with everything Ollie, Alan, and Gary said. Exciting to hear Gary's going out to get a bid on helping build that strategy. That's part of what UBBA is about. I hope he can leverage UBBA and also tell us where we have shortcomings. As far as the FCC, I like what Ollie said about acknowledging during COVID and all the tough time that the commission continued to stay the course, saw the value in providing broadband capabilities to critical infrastructure. That's what we've been lobbying for. We weren't the first to push for this. We've been heavily dependent on our peer utilities. We've got a lot of support from Alan and his team. But what we have done is built the pilot, built the business case. The one thing that we really lacked was spectrum, and that's been the case since we started this. In fact, since I joined other organizations, the utilities have constantly lobbied for spectrum that can be for critical infrastructure. So guys, we finally have what we wanted. Are we ready to go with it? Ameren is. We've been building our business case. We're meeting with our leadership, moving this project forward. It means that we'll be able to build a ubiquitous, standardized and converged network. In reality, I can have integrated cybersecurity plan to run a packet-based network end to end. That aligns with our pilot where we tested 14 use cases. We've identified as many as 20 that we can converge. And then the new opportunities as you get emerging technologies, the capability to provide greater customer integration in choices, whether they want to participate in energy efficiency, have real-time information about the quality of their energy, things of that nature. So we view it as a great opportunity to move this forward. It aligns with our strategy, and it is a good propagating spectrum. We call it our anchor spectrum. We think down the road, other spectrum might be more of a knit solution. This is what we're building the entire platform for our field area network on. Hopefully that answers the question, Bobby.
Yeah, John, that's great. Thank you. And I'm going to actually come back and push on that a little bit and drill down with all of you on some of the things you just said. But before we do it, I want to give Alan McIntyre from Southern Link a chance to wrap up this first, just his first thoughts on the May 13th report and order, because Southern Link definitely brings a different perspective. Alan?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. And yeah, all the comments so far are just music to my ears. So, yeah, all great stuff. Yeah, at Southern, we actually last year went and re-reviewed our telecommunications strategy. And, part of that review was looking at core operational needs and, our grid modernization efforts and how do we support those from a telecom standpoint. Because we really see there's just an ever increasing, number of devices, applications that utilities are going to need, and not going to slow down anytime soon, we don't think. And so you really need, there's just a growing need for broadband connectivity to address that. So, our strategy is really taking the form. It's kind of two-pronged. Obviously, there's a fiber component to our strategy, but on the wireless side, it's taken the form of an LT network. And so, even during that work, within Southern Company, and I get this question a lot. I wish I had a nickel every time somebody asks me, but the question's always, why aren't other utilities doing what Southern's done, and building out private LT? And the answer is always the same. It's that there just has not been an availability of broadband spectrum. Again, in a sub 1 gigahertz band where it's affordable to build out. And so, I think that's really, to me, when we talk implication of May 13th, that's it. For the first time, potentially there's an option now for utilities to do exactly what we've done, which is great for us and great for the industry.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, it is really interesting to see. I mean, you guys have sort of been the leading edge of a lot of that work. So we do look to you guys and appreciate all of your efforts, not only in this particular report and order, but also primarily with the Utility Broadband Alliance and your help there. So we really value that a lot. I think, maybe not from Southern Link's perspective, but, what I want to kind of go back to something you were saying really about your strategic plan. So John Hughes, you guys are continuing down a path with your strategic plans, but Alan, Alan Thorpe, let me say that, Alan Thorpe, from Xcel Energy's perspective, does this change or augment anything in your utility strategic plans for critical operations on your network?
Well, it gives us an opportunity. I mean, all utilities have various wireless networks in different life cycle stages. So we have some we just refreshed. We have some that are due to be refreshed. But now we can start looking at this from a strategic standpoint. And I mentioned this when I spoke before, not just as a purpose-built wireless network or a one-off network or something that just we need to do to solve a problem. We can look at this as an overall holistic strategy. So yeah, I'm not saying that we will act on everything or do everything, but it gives us this opportunity now to go, hey, if we built this underlying network, if we did this, how many use cases, how many of these other wireless networks could we stack on top of this? This is a different strategy than we've ever had in the utility space. We've got this opportunity now. So yeah, it's going to change our strategic plans. I just don't know how much it is because it's a wholesale turn as the way we're thinking about how we're doing things.
That's a good point, Alan. Good point. Ollie, from NIPA's perspective, any strategic changes or what are you guys up to right now?
So Bobby, with the whole DTO when that was formed, we had a strategic digital strategy plan that we are implementing. With this rule and order, I don't see a lot of changes to that because we already were marching on on building this network out, evaluating the different options that we have. For us, not that much with respect to just building our wireless network, but I believe that the spectrum is definitely the heart of the wireless network, right? So with this rule and order, maybe some of the use cases can be prioritized over the others for a faster deployment to support our workers out in the field. But from we do have an RFP out on the street. It's an active RFP, and there are things that we cannot share openly on a public event like this, Bobby. But definitely there might be some minor changes to our strategic plan, but not major.
Great, Ali, and we definitely want to respect that. And again, that's part of this discussion, why we're holding questions. Just type them all in and we will follow up after the event, because we do know this is a very fluid and very important opportunity for a lot of our utilities, and we want to respect what you guys are doing, all of you, but NIPA for sure with an open RFP there. Other guys, Gary, John, Alan, any additional thing that you want to just add on now that you've heard the other guys speak, really just about your utility strategic plans for the critical operations. So anything any of you wanted to add there?
Hey, Bobby, this is John.
Yeah.
So Ameren's strategic plans have been defined similar to Ollie's, and I think we shared them a year ago at a high level. You know, the overall objective is to simplify our network, to run a packet-based privatized network end to end so that we maintain control of the reliability and recoverability of that network. This spectrum opens the door for us to be able to do that realistically. And so we're staying the course on that. Running our own network gives us a chance to somewhat air gap from the internet, provide, you know, greater cyber security and awareness if we do that right. And that will also allow us to converge a lot of our current applications across the standardized, easier to deploy network. So honestly, the strategic plans, and we shared those a year ago, it's really about staying the course. This just enables us to move forward on that.
Great, John. Thank you. Yes, and for those of you who are members of UBBA, you'll remember John sharing that with our membership and at the first summit down in Birmingham back in October. And he's continually shared with our membership and offered guidance. So we do appreciate that. Again, that's really the point of UBBA. Gary or Alan McIntyre, I don't want to leave you out, but if you have anything you want to add.
I mean, no big change. Obviously, our strategic direction's been, you know, this way for a little while now. But I mean, I agree, John. You said something a minute ago, and I think it is something all utilities ought to consider. I mean, you know, I think T-Mobile merger with Sprint, they call it their layer cake. You know, where they have spectrum in different bands. I think, you know, there's certainly from a strategy standpoint, I think utilities ought to consider that. I mean, you want a broad-based, you know, lower spectrum band for coverage and, you know, to reduce the number of sites, but as the needs grow and, you know, broadband throughputs and things like that continue to, those demands continue to grow. I think, you know, looking at spectrum in other bands is probably a smart idea as well. So I don't think there's a one size fits all solution. I think, you know, the smart spectrum strategy is all arrows in the quiver strategy.
Great,
Yeah,
Alan. Go ahead, Gary.
I'll just double down on what everybody said. But you know, this enables us to turn, you know, from strategic towards tactical and actually start doing some of the work.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you guys for that. So let's talk a little bit about use cases then and applications. A couple of you guys have said, I think John Hughes had said something about this sort of being a foundational piece, and then some other things can go on top. Alan Thorpe, you're the chair of the use cases working group, and Gary Johnson is the chair of the cybersecurity working group. I know we talk an awful lot about use cases and applications for private LTE or private broadband communications. What kind of new opportunities for use cases or new applications might this open up for utilities? Gary, if you want to start, or Alan Thorpe, go ahead, start.
Oh, I defer to Gary. You know.
Sure. I don't know about new opportunities necessarily. You know, most of us are already heading down the paths of, you know, distribution and generations, automation, you know, the digital meters, right? AMI, vehicle charging stations. But I do think that deploying, you know, private LTE in the spectrum will allow us all to implement those technologies and consolidate those technologies onto a single network. Although I also agree with the other Alan that having all your eggs in one basket is not necessarily the best answer. So having a good balance, in the network strategy is a requirement.
Excellent. Yeah. Alan Thorpe, what would you like to add on there?
I have to agree. I mean, I think not so focused on new, though that opportunity will come. It's the existing use cases that we can migrate onto the network, and that's a change for us. Now we're responsible for the medium, not just the endpoints. As the use case working group has looked at, there's every utility has their own set of high value use cases, and there's some commonality there. There may be one or two use cases different out of the top 5, but for the most part, 3 to 4 of those, you all hit the same thing. So now is how do we leverage this new opportunity, if we build an LTE private broadband network, how do we leverage that for these use cases to increase value to the customer?
Okay, great. Ollie, I wanted to turn it back to you and what you're thinking from a use case perspective and looking at applications that might go. Give us some examples of what might go on this new Spectrum network.
Sure, Bobby, and I agree with everybody that whatever they've shared so far. But NIPA is not a distribution company. We are generation and transmission, and we always discuss this in every of our meeting at Utility Broadband Alliance or the Nokia Utility Executive Forum. But our use case, our primary driver for a private LTE is mobility. We don't have a lot of fixed point connections. So our use cases have always been a little different compared to all our peers here. But with COVID-19, New York was hit the most, and I know, I'm not talking about new use cases, but maybe some prioritization of some of the use cases that we have already evaluated. And with the reopening of New York in different phases, construction is starting up. So how does that impact our workforce? Having employees working from home, working from their offices, miles away, that they cannot travel to a construction site. Having that video capability available for them to see what's going out in the field, that is definitely, I would say, one of the top priorities right now after COVID-19 for us to focus on. But there are a number of use cases that we always have talked about, as whether it's video feed through a drone back to your control room, and the workforce mobility applications, having our workforce having those applications readily available for them out in the field rather than having them drive back to the office to get the paperwork. Push to talk applications with Wi-Fi telephony and the secure communications for emergency management. And I think that is one of the key components for private LTE is, we always rely on commercial carriers for a lot of these applications today, but having a secure network for emergency management is critical.
That's excellent point there, particularly around, so you brought up a great point around the timing of this, and we have definitely appreciate the FCC moving forward in light of COVID. But what you bring up there, Ali, definitely shows that the timing is important for this decision as we go back to this, how do we network everyone in and from the new locations, and how do we manage all of this? Clearly over the last 2 months, a lot of the infrastructure has taken a hit. So thank you for bringing that up. Any other comments around this, just this first part there?
Yeah, Bobby, I'll chime in. And I think Alan Thorpe kind of touched on this. LTE is really a network platform. So if you think of, the analogy, the enterprise IT network, think about every business unit, kind of having their own little IT network and doing their own applications on it. I mean, that's where we were from a wireless perspective, right? We were trying to solve different needs with different networks. And so, LTE really gives us an enterprise wireless network where, you just layer on applications at that point. So you don't have, it really takes out the network question. and then it really turns into use cases and applications, and that's kind of where what we're seeing. When we built out our LT network, the primary driver was really push to talk and SCADA, and those are core elements for any utility. Since then, we're probably up to 25, 30 different use cases and applications running on the network. And it kind of continues to grow. We're really getting into, where is the SCADA world? Was it an LT router on the network? We're really getting into use cases where we're trying to embed LT into different devices. And so that could take the form of a line sensor, could be a meter, could be a network lighting control. A lot of opportunities there, obviously, with big numbers of devices. But I think, for the first time in our history with LTE now, the utilities can be on the same technology platform as the rest of the wireless industry, which, that has huge advantages in terms of equipment, devices, those sort of things. But then, if utilities, if we're working together like we really do very effectively, one of the few industries that, different companies work together like we do, I think then we can drive that ecosystem for even more tailored utility-centric devices where we have LTE, kind of embedded in some kind of platform or device. So I think, just having an LTE network in general, it solves a lot of the problems. And then I think we can focus in on what do we want to do with it. And so, that's kind of where we are. And, people are always coming up with new use cases, and, we kind of welcome it. And I think that's the trend. That's where we want to be, and not having to go stand up a new network for some application out there.
It's a great point, Alan McIntyre. Thank you for that. Absolutely. So let's we've talked around this quite a lot. John Hughes, I'll start with you on this one. What are you seeing that your consumers, your customers might benefit from what you guys are doing given this new opportunity?
Yeah, thank you, Bobby. It's a good question. Some of the benefits are not as direct and visible to the customer as saying we put a private LTE in, therefore you've got improved outage numbers, less duration in outages, but that's what you're supporting. So in Missouri, we're going through a big grid modernization. A part of that is deploying a ubiquitous network to manage that grid mod, which is a more efficient digitalization of that network, a lot more distribution automation, dynamic load switching, supporting applications like interrupters, cat bank controllers for power quality, different applications that all provide indirect benefit to the users in their consumption of our product. In Illinois, we have a mandate to provide energy efficiency programs and customer participation. We're doing a lot with volt bar optimization, some innovative thinking about how to approach that integration with the meters. But at some point, you're going to want it to embrace those customers with rooftop solar or with different energy sources and begin to make the inverter a touch point for power quality control and offer new services to customers to participate in power quality by controlling their inverters. You'll have better capability to look at your services. Maybe you want to subscribe to clean energy and you can help identify how to make that happen, how to embrace more efficiency and therefore more energy, or eliminating some of the overbuild of the generation that creates a lot of carbon waste. So energy efficiency is going to be a big opportunity that will help our industry and our communities as we drive greater efficiency and embrace the two-way flow of energy. Some of the other things we're looking at, so you talked about customers, I want to talk about coworkers too. I think there's a big opportunity to utilize this private network to increase the coworker safety. Man down capabilities could have a whole new meaning and location. you giving, what the world is going through with COVID, the threats of protests and situational awareness, whether it's in a substation and your safety to locating somebody who may be overheating out in the field. This ubiquitous network opens all kinds of new opportunities to help better support our coworkers with information and safety, locational awareness. I know Southern's doing a little bit with locational awareness, and that also drives to a better customer interface because your coworkers are safe and more willing to interact. So those are just some of the things that come to mind, some of the areas we've talked about, Bobby.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Gary Johnson, same question to you then. As you look at the consumers under Evergy's large footprint, what are you guys thinking about?
Yeah, so kind of like John, I mean, I think most of the benefits are not going to be directly visible, at least out of the gate, to the consumer. And a couple of things that I thought about while he was talking there, quicker restoration, certainly an opportunity. Wearables, with linemen and such, having wearables and virtual reality goggles and things like that to get real-time information back into operations. The drones, we're actually excited about this because we think we can expand our drone program. If we build out private LTE and expand the number of pilots and even push that capability all the way out into the field and become even more efficient and resolve issues more quickly.
Excellent. Yeah, that's exciting. I love to hear those kind of stories, and we'll talk more about drones at the next UBBA meeting for sure. Alan Thorpe, I know you guys at Excel have some interesting conversations with your consumers as well. Thoughts there?
Well, it's for us, it's and for all utilities, it's about reducing those customer minute outages and a variety of ways that you can do that. And that's one thing we've touched on it in this call. That's one reason utilities are going to an ADMS. You model the system, you do some automatic controls, you do some FLISR, you would use your IVVO, IVVC to reduce your voltage characteristics at a substation, thereby reducing generation. So it's a whole system that requires some kind of communication method back. When you're modeling the system, you're real-time modeling the SCADA devices in the field, so you know what the state of the network is. So if you can tighten that up, if you can control your communication systems to a degree where that's not what's taking down your view into the network, then you can help with those customer minute outages by real-time modeling your system. I think DER as we push storage out to the neighborhoods and out to the edge, our decisions have got to become closer to the edge. We have to make those decisions out due to latency. So this lets us have that opportunity and thereby helping our customers. And it's like John said, it's not necessarily a one-to-one ratio. The customers don't see the benefit every day, but over time, reducing those customer minute outages will have an effect.
Certainly, certainly. Yeah, that's something that as consumers we all care about is we don't think about the power until it's not there. And then we want to know how fast can you turn it back on. So that communications infrastructure is going to be crucial for sure. Ollie, NIPA's a little bit different as you've stated, but the consumers you guys are clearly thinking about every day as well. What are you seeing or what are your focuses there from a end consumer?
Before I start that, I just want to say I agree with everything that all the other panelists have said. It's not only the customers. They are all our efforts are customer centric, but it also applies to our internal customers as well as a workforce. But NIPA is a state authority. So and with the and our customers are governmental, municipal, and economic development customers. So we don't provide power to residential. So with that said, and having New York's governors reforming the energy vision of reducing carbon footprint and reducing the energy consumption in state offices, we want to provide a service to our customers as an energy advisor, where we can use predictive analytics, getting the data back, using this network, getting the data back, providing some real-time predictive analytics on some analytics on their asset health as well as their operations. So I think that'll be one of the key components for us. But just tying back to what Alan had mentioned, that we are building this network for our internal use. We're not looking to commercialize this. So and wherever we're looking to build this network, it's all in remote locations where a public network might not be available for quite some time, and they might not even have a business case to build a network out there. So especially those customers, I think, will definitely benefit with the service.
That's an excellent point. And you do bring a different perspective, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, because a lot of the people on the phone today certainly are looking after various entities, and I think you've hit on a good piece there, Ollie. So thank you for that. Alan McIntyre, just sort of your perspective, again, from a consumer perspective, commercial, industrial, or governmental consumers perspective, it's a bit different from Southern Link's perspective, but share with us what you're thinking. You guys have talked a lot about smart cities initiatives and communication to the underserved and the unserved. So talk with us a little bit about what lessons you guys have learned there on that piece.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And so, yeah, I mean, in a lot of parts of the country this way, it's just underserved. And, we live in a part of the country where, unfortunately, that's the case in a lot of areas. And, the pandemic's really highlighted that to a large degree. But one of the interesting things, again, it goes back to having a LTE network as a platform, being able to add applications easily, flexibly. And so, a few months ago on our handsets, we actually enabled hotspot capability. And so, it kind of timing worked out once we hit the pandemic. And so I'll give you a real world example. It was, so our customers are both external, and we consider our internal folks customers as well. And so this is somebody at Alabama Power, a distribution manager sent me this, and I'm going to read it real quick. But, when you work on the service side of a utility, a lot of people don't necessarily tell you you're doing a good job. You usually hear about the bad stuff. So when you get something like this, you're pretty proud of it. So let me read this real quick. I thought you'd like to know that the LT network has proved to be a valuable asset for one of my team members during our pandemic response. I suspect that there are many more employees benefiting from and using the hotspot feature on their Link phones during this time. It's helped him maintain a high level of productivity while telecommuting with speeds that rival what he'd get with an ISP. So, without an LT network, that employee might not have anything right now.
Wow. That's pretty impressive, Alan. I will say. Thank you for reading that, for sharing it verbatim. I think that really sums up the heart of why we all do what we do. Excellent. Okay, well, judging by the clock on the wall, I'm going to ask each of you then just for final thoughts. Again, we've been getting lots of questions come in. Thank you. Please submit more questions, because we will print those out and follow up with direct answers. But guys, let's just run through and do final thoughts on the whole thing. Ollie, let's start with you. I'll go right to left.
All right, thank you. What I would say is, whatever we have discussed today, and what everyone has shared, I completely agree with it. One key thing that that utility should remember is, not starting with selecting spectrum. Identify what your needs are, what your territory regions are. What are the use cases that you're looking to solve? What are the problem that you're looking to solve? And then decide, what spectrum would be the best an option for you for your utility. So I think that is a critical component for your design piece.
Excellent, Ollie. Thank you for that. Alan Thorpe, your final thoughts?
Well, I just want to say that this gives us an opportunity that we haven't had before. I mean, as you can tell, we're excited. I think all of us are excited to have this opportunity. Whether we use it or not is up to each individual utility, and how we use it is up to each individual utility. But now we can play on the same field as Alan McIntyre said with the commercial carriers. We've got an ecosystem that's vibrant. We got an ecosystem that's constantly being updated, and it gives us paths forwards that we've never had before. So I think it's an exciting time.
Thanks, Alan. John Hughes, final thoughts from Emory.
So, the conversation started about the spectrum and what does that enable. I liked Ollie's comments about building your business needs and understanding those. We talked a little bit about use cases, and my comment and suggestion is aggregate your use cases. You're building an enterprise solution or a platform. We had Bell Labs come in, sit down with our business units, our distribution transmission groups. We analyzed the amount of devices that we'd be connected into this field area network over the next 10 years. We did that in 2016. We're already exceeding those expectations and deployment numbers. And that was with what we knew we had to deliver for operational excellence. So you have new business cases, you have emerging needs. I think you're building a platform that will support future emerging needs and enable the business. You want to spend more time on the users' business case and give them a network that they can rely on and not have to build as an independent solution with each use case.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Gary Johnson from Evergy, final thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, you guys are stealing my points. John, right there with the stay tied close to the business. That's extremely important. And Ali's point about, hey, figure out what the problem you're trying to solve first, and then pick the technology. In this case, worry about the frequency then. I didn't say it before, and I am the one security guy on the panel, at least as far as I know. But John brought up a couple times about cybersecurity benefits and just the nature of private, adds to your cybersecurity capabilities. So I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. Gary, thank you for closing with that. That's important. Alan McIntyre from Southern Link, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I tag on to what Gary said. I mean, I do think, private LTE allows for kind of unmatched levels of reliability, resiliency, and security, which, given the use cases we're talking about here, is pretty important. The other thing I would say, and Alan Thorpe mentioned it, I mean, there's excitement. So it's exciting to be able to, kind of look at this from an application standpoint and what can we do. And so, I think that's one of the advantages of UBBA and us talking with each other and sharing. I would just close with saying, Uber is certainly used as the application that was enabled by LTE that really kind of changed the transportation industry. I think, we have an opportunity as utilities to kind of come up with that Uber application for the utility industry now with LTE. So, it's definitely an exciting time.
That's great. I love that analogy for sure. Well, thank you all so much. As you guys have heard on the call, clearly Utility Broadband Alliance has brought together some really top folks thinking about private broadband networks. private LTE, and we have the industry experts and the technology experts coming together, focusing on this all the time. If you're not a member of UBBA, but you're interested, reach out to me, Bobby Harris, that's my email in front of you there. On the 24th of June, in just 2 weeks, we have another webinar that we will take a look at similar topic, but coming from a different perspective. We're going to look at from a technology perspective. So from the vendor community, we're going to look at the technology changes, the opportunities there, the next steps with the FCC. So if you haven't already registered for the June 24th webinar, definitely do that. If you don't have that email, send it to me. I'll send me an email and I'll send you the link to register. We'll be promoting that after today, of course. And again, if there's anything, questions that you have put in the question tool, I will be printing those out. If you have other questions that you thought about after you listen to this and you get back to your day-to-day, send me an email and we'll do some follow-up, and we will get answers out on all of the questions. So thank you for using the tool for that. And we hope you have a wonderful day. We hope you stay safe, take care of each other, look after each other, and just help me thank the utility members once again. I truly appreciate all of you guys, your time and your effort on this important topic. Have a terrific day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
hosting. Thanks for
Thanks.
hosting this.